All my Bowie albums start off with a phone call, and Brian Eno was on another extension in the house. They said, now what are you going to bring to the table? And I said, well, it's called a harmonizer. And they said, well, what does it do? And I said, it fucks with the fabric of time.